Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 10th Parks and Rec Commission meeting. Thank you all for coming, and welcome and good evening to all our commissioners that have made it here tonight. All right, let's get started. The first thing, let's call the meeting to order. The meeting is called to order. All right. Item number B, citizens' communications. I see that we have one citizen who would like to speak today before us, Mr. Michael Vonderon. Mr. Vonderon, welcome.
Nice to be here. Thanks. I'm Michael Vondro. I think I hit something. I live at 1107 North Bend, Jordan. I'd like to thank Mike Eaton and Steve for all the work he did until we got Lisa for the director. They did an excellent job, and I'd like to thank the nurse and the assistant administrator here on the committee for everything he's done. And we have loose dogs over at Queen City Park, and it's packs of dogs. It's not like one or two. It's like 10 to 15 pit bulls. You got several pregnant dogs, and Animal Control just recently made a run, and that did help the dog population in half, on Queen City Park and Christ Kitchen. And most of these dogs are owned dogs, and they don't have no registration. There's no rabies shot. There's no vaccination. They're not being fed. And, this is still winter time. I mean, it is warm right now, but next week it might be cold, and they don't have no shelter. And I'm not smart enough to know what to do about the problem. That's why I come to people like you that's smarter than me to try to figure it out. And there's dog feces all over the place, and I've never seen anyone use a leash. I've never seen anyone clean dog feces up. If you look at any other parks in Victoria, they all use leashes, but that's the only park where they don't use leashes. They don't clean dog poop up. At the courthouse, they have those little bags, where you could put it in, but I doubt if the people at Queen City Park would do that. But it is a Class C misdemeanor, if you don't clean up your dog feces or use a leash or get them vaccinated. And I wish someone could just look into it. Maybe Animal Care Services needs to make another round there and talk to them and stuff. And Christ Kitchen don't have the bandwidth to take care of it. And I would like to see cameras put up, to see what's going on at Queen City Park. Thanks, and have a good afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your attention to detail. Appreciate that. Lisa, do you want to talk briefly about the city ordinance on like loose dogs, or were you aware of that complaint? Or Stephen?
Yes, I mean, obviously, there is a city ordinance, especially in our parks, to, have your dogs leashed and stuff. So definitely, if anybody has questions about loose dogs, though, just like we do in the parks, we ask them to call Animal Control and work with those city officials on that. But anything else to Queen City, we are working on further conversations that we'll present to council first soon, and Lisa's leading that project. But just for dogs, Animal Control will help out with those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item is the approval of the minutes. Do I have any comments?
I move we approve minutes.
Well, I believe one thing is Mr. Biles wasn't here last month.
That is, can you please make that correction? Yes. All right, so with the noted correction to the amendments, do I have another motion to accept the minutes as corrected? All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to item D, other business. I turn it over to Director Wube.
Awesome. Good evening, Chair, Board Commissioners. Today, we have an agenda that is set up to talk about the following. First, we're going to walk through our meeting times discussion that we had in our last board meeting, as well as our division updates and our capital improvement projects and any upcoming events. So as you can see in the slide, we have outlined not the month of February, obviously we're here, but we started with the month of March. And so these are the dates following our normal meeting times, which is the second Monday of each month. As you can see, the first month with March should be a normal meeting date. We looked We had a discussion with our entire team, took a lot of factors into consideration when pulling out these dates. And so we wanted to open it up for a brief discussion before we move into division updates. So March the 10th, April the 14th, as well as May the 12th, seem pretty normal in terms of operations and activities and historical data that we viewed. So Jessica has done that research as well. But we looked at June, July, and August, our summer months. And so the reason why I have that highlighted is that we wanted to leave that open for the board to discuss. Those tend to be vacation time, family time, moving around. And so we wanted to highlight if maybe we could look at no session for one of those dates. And it's a heavy time for us as well with programming. September 8th would be as normal. October 13th, no official session, but we would like to continue our October workshop, which is held on a Saturday. That's a 4-hour session. I thought it was a very productive time together, and so we wanted to leave that open there. November the 10th, normal meeting date. And of course, December is a very huge time for family and festivities with Christmas and other holidays. And so we recommended no session. For us, for our staff in particular, it's a heavy time for our Christmas parade. It's always around that first week of December. So I'd like to propose these dates. We would like to propose these dates, and I will be happy to answer any questions should you have those at this time.
Comments?
My thought is maybe just one meeting over the summer months. I'm not sure what we did last year or this past summer, but it seems like we only met once during the summer months.
Lisa,
Yes.
did I understand you correctly? The dates that you have highlighted, one of those dates is one that you don't want to have, choosing between those three. Is that correct? Did I understand that right?
Yes, so those 3 summer months, you can choose 1 or 2 or all. I'm leaving that for the discussion amongst the board. Typically, I just know it's a huge travel time, so we don't have a preference per se. It's just totally up to the board what you choose.
Okay, thanks.
No problem, thank you.
I would suggest July 14th. That's just my opinion, comment, what have you.
So skipping June and August, so we'd go May 12th, July 14th, and then September 8th.
That's what I'm thinking.
Does that put any, I mean, I know that the city has a whole bunch of 4th of July, stuff going on, right before that meeting. Is that something that 14th gives y'all enough time to close all that stuff out and then prepare for, a 2-month recap?
Yes, sir, we appreciate the consideration, but certainly that's our breath of fresh air after the 4th.
Cool. Yeah, I like that idea too, John.
I kind of agree with John, but I would think more better that we would meet in June, skip July, and then meet again in August so that we could get ready to close out the rest of the year. If, meeting, not meeting in June, then in July, then not meeting in August, then, you're coming back. Because like August 11th, the kids are almost back in school then. So, so I don't, vacation's going to be pretty much over by, in August. So I think, meeting, in June, in August, but skip July. So like they said they can have everything ready after the 4th of July and then, pick up and get ready to do the rest of the year.
So you're saying just skip June?
No, skip July the 14th.
Oh,
We would meet June the 9th, meet August the 11th, but skip the
just skip July. I misunderstood.
Right.
Okay.
I am leaning towards meeting on July 14 and skipping June and August, knowing that at the end of May, early June, I think a lot of people are traveling and out of town, and the same thing in August. So I'm fine with either, but I can see moving to the May 12, July 14, and September 8th
And skipping June and
in
August.
August. Yeah.
I like that, because people are traveling, especially in June.
And it's just, it would be incumbent upon staff, as always, just to make sure that, that we have information we need in July to get us through to September. It puts, the burden kind of on you guys, come back September to give us, pretty much the summer, a summer recap.
Sure.
Which you guys are so good at, so I'm not concerned about that in the least.
We have one more comment from the board, Mr. Fisk?
I would go with July 14th as a meeting, or as the good meeting date, because then you're never going more than 2 weeks or 2 months without a meeting.
Well, I'll make a motion then that we approve the proposed meeting times, dropping the June 9th and the August 11th.
Can I clarify one thing first, please? So, I don't know if it's necessary, but as far as October and December, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, or does anybody else have any comments? Having the Saturday workshop and then no meeting
December,
in December as well.
no meeting in December, yeah.
I'm good with the rest of the schedule.
Yes.
Thank you. So that would leave us at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
So-
8, 9. 9 meetings for the year.
So we have a motion started. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll move that we approve this as presented with no meetings for June 9th or August 11th. The rest stands.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Thank you, Lisa.
All right. Well, thank you all. All right, now we get into the fun part.
Excuse me,
Yes.
can you please email that to all of us?
Yes.
All right, appreciate it.
Jessica's got it.
For those that weren't taking notes.
All right. Let me, see here. I'm working over here, I'm trying. All right, so today we have the pleasure of Rolando Hernandez, our head golf pro, who is here to give us a Riverside Golf Course update. It's all you. Thank you, sir.
Hi, good evening, everybody. As Lisa mentioned, Rolando Hernandez, I'm our head golf professional over at Riverside Golf Course. Gonna kind of jump right into it. I know we talked in our October work session, kind of gave you guys a background of the golf course, so I'm gonna kind of let you guys read through it and just talk a little bit about where we're at and kind of where we came from. So the city has obviously always owned the land in the park. The park is 660 acres and the golf course takes up about 200 of that. We are the only municipal golf course inside of our city limits. There are some smaller 9-hole golf courses that are, within 30 minutes, 35 minutes. The next 18-hole golf course outside of the 2 country clubs here in town is about an hour away. Sinton's the next one. Then you get to Bay City and then getting into Corpus, Austin, San Antonio, following for the next places you can find that are at least 18 holes. One of the unique things for us right now is we do have a 5-hole practice course. The golf course used to be 27 holes it was built in the mid-90s. Those last set of 9 holes were not reused when we reopened the golf course in 2018. The golf course was in fairly rough shape. So getting the golf course operable end of 2017, moving into 2018, that set of 9 holes was just not anywhere close. Took us a year to get those to a condition that we could actually use. And as we kind of worked our way through that year, we decided that it would be best to offer some practice area for the community rather than having another 9 holes. The practice area has been great, especially moving through COVID. Gave the new golfers a chance to go out and hit golf balls out on our driving range, use the short course as a place to practice before actually moving on to the golf course, understanding etiquette, but knowing kind of what they're doing in the first place. So that's turned out to be really good for us. It's a great practice place that we're able to offer all of our high school teams. So the teams do use the golf course for after school practice. They use the other golf courses as well, but it's one of those places where if they only got an hour to spend, they can go out, play a few holes, and not interrupt our tee sheet or anything else we're doing on the golf course. So that whole practice area has been great for us. The city has managed the golf course since 2018, or the second half of 2017 is when they started. The golf course was temporarily closed. I was hired in August of 2017, so I've been with the golf course since the city's taken over. So I've seen it in a really rough shape to where we're operable now, and we're in a pretty good spot, and everybody seems to enjoy it. We have 11 full-time employees. The 12 part-time employees kind of fluctuate with the seasons. So right now, we're probably a few down from that. And then as we move into spring and summer, we'll hire and add in a couple more part-time staff just to make sure we cover our days as they get longer and additional business that we'll see moving forward. Couple of highlights from our budget. So 6 of the 7 years that we've been in operation, we've actually had a positive financial return. Those first couple of years were, a few $1,000s, but still on the right side. And as we got through 2024, we saw just over 1.4 million in total revenue. That's been our highest revenue year. We were just shy of 1.4 in fiscal year 23, but we've seen growth every single year since we've been open. The golf course is fully funded on the revenue that we generate, so everything that we do, we pay for. Our budget is encompassed in the revenue that we see a day-to-day basis. So our membership fees, our green fees, merchandise that we're selling out of the golf shop, we fund all of our own stuff. It's great being a municipal golf course. I know there's a few around, but most are subsidized by the city, and we, at this point, don't have any kind of subsidies that we receive. And we do pay back the city, I believe, $25,000 a year for services that they provide for us, going to legal, HR, all that good stuff. So there is some money that's going back to the city as well. With the completion of fiscal year 24, our reserve fund has grown to just over $1 million, which is awesome. We obviously went from having no money to being steady for the past bunch of years, being fiscally responsible with the help of Gilbert, our CFO. He's definitely conservative and helped us get to that point, which is awesome. His idea has always been for us to keep about 6 months of a reserve in that account, which is about $500,000. So if we had issues, floods, whatever hurricanes, that we would be able to sustain for a few months while we got stuff back together and got moving again. So a couple of things with our reserve fund now being at about $1 million, we've actually been given the opportunity to go out and spend some of that money. So with that $500,000 kind of being the bottom end of where we can get to, we've presented a couple of projects to city manager's office of what we'd like to see at the golf course. The first one, and this is kind of a joint idea, was the parking lot. It needs some help. It needs to be freshened up. We got a few areas that need to be patched, but all of it needs to be resealed, restriped. Got a bunch of the curb stops that need to be replaced. So more of an aesthetic thing. So the view of guests that are coming into the facility starts out with the parking lot. I know people aren't going to turn away just because the parking lot isn't nice. If the golf course is good, they're probably still going to play. But it's one of those overall appearances as we're doing other projects in the park with the dog park and the duck pond getting revamped. I think it's just part of us being in the park that we need to do our piece to have that aesthetic. So that's one of the things that we'll be looking to do. The second part would be in the actual cart staging area, so just outside of our pro shop where we park our golf carts daily. That is old asphalt that's been beaten up. It's got some holes in it. There's an old tree that we had cut down that was in that area that was a hazard. That patch has never been properly patched. So we are looking at having that entire area concreted along with some of the connecting golf cart paths, just for uniformity, but also that aesthetic, that appearance is when people come to the golf course, they're seeing something that's well taken care of, something that's new, something that's fresh. Also gives our local community an idea of we're using the money for something to improve. We're not hanging on to it and just putting it in a bank account. We're trying to do something with it so we can improve the place that they enjoy being at in the first place. There's several different paths. I apologize, I didn't bring the pictures that I have for the paths and the different areas that we'd be looking to do. But we have met with city manager's office, we've met with city engineers, and they are working to reach out to a couple of different landscape design companies, so we can get somebody that actually has that knowledge and that skill to put it on paper for us and give us a picture. They don't want to see, my pictures with crayons and stuff. My daughter could probably do a better job. So we'll get some better help, and we'll get our ideas on paper so we have something to look at. But just awesome that we're getting a chance to be able to put some money back into the golf course. One of the questions and feedback that I know we'll get is why are we not using the money to put into the golf course, into greens renovation or fairways or irrigation. A project of that nature, which I'll talk about here in a second, is just much more than $500,000. That's a little bit of a stepping stone to even do a project like that. And I'll explain a little bit more about that here in a second. The last piece of this would be a entrance sign to the golf course. We currently don't have anything, but there are signs that were designed by HAF that go along with the duck pond and the dog park signs. Nothing on that scale. We wouldn't do an overhead sign, but something that would be more like a monument sign. So that's also something that we'll be looking at to do to enhance our entrance, but also keep in line with the design of the other signs that have been created here over the past couple years. Golf course fees. So we did have a change this year for 2025. We've been on a pretty steady change of fees every 2 years. So we did this in 23 and in 21, and we did it by the same amount. So we went up $2 per round. Our most expensive fee at this point is $53 on the weekends. That includes your golf cart. You can play for as cheap as $14, depending on time of day and day of the week. Weekends are more expensive than during the week, and we do have a twilight rate. Right now is after 1 o'clock. As time changes, it'll be after 3 o'clock, and that's again a discounted rate to be able to play and try to get in a few holes before it gets dark. Same thing with our practice course, went up $2, so it's $11 to play out at the practice course. Memberships went up $72 for the year. Again, you're talking about 6 months, $6 a month. Haven't gotten any real negative feedback from many of that stuff. A lot of those guys expect memberships to move at some point. And again, we've been steady with every couple of years, so I think at this point they're starting to expect that. But again, not a significant change, nothing that I've had anybody griping in my office, saying, why are we going up by so much or at all? They understand the rising cost of goods and chemicals and labor and everything else, so it's been pretty easy. Just kind of rough estimates, we think this will give us about $50,000 in added revenue. And really, again, that's covering some of the rise of cost of goods for, our chemicals and some of the things we're using around the golf course. We also had different pay structure for the city that was installed for this fiscal year. So that'll help kind of close some of those gaps. Nothing big, but it'll, again, keep us on the positive side of what we're doing right now.
Rolando, how many annual passes do you offer?
We do 225 is our max, and we've hit that number every single year. 2 years ago, we had a waiting list of about 50. Now our waiting list kind of hovers in the 5 to 10 range. And right now we do them every December and January. So it's an annual pass that goes by the calendar year, not by our fiscal year. And it's always January, February, we're chasing those last few. So I think we're probably just over 200 right now and looking to fill up the last few. It's typically March as the weather changes and people can actually go back outside and play a bunch of golf, and then we'll see that interest rise again. But
Are those passes prorated if someone were to sign up in March?
yes, yeah, we wouldn't charge them for the whole year. We'll just whatever they're signing up for. Having the waiting list was great. I think having such a long waiting list, we got to a point where people were waiting a year. And I think that just kind of grew old with them, and they either joined some of the other clubs or, we've also had people that have moved out of town that used to be on that list. Because we would call those guys regularly as people drop the pass during the year. That gives an opportunity with a waiting list to just be able to fill in and kind of keep things moving. So I expect in March that we'll be back to that 225 and we'll move forward for the year.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so our capital improvement projects, the future capital improvement projects. So I kind of hinted on this a while ago with the course renovations and us using money for a couple of other projects right now. The biggest thing to the golf course is it is 65, 70 years old. It was built in the mid-50s. The second half of it was built in the late 50s, early 60s. And nothing has really changed. There's been irrigation obviously was put in, but the irrigation is old. While our pump station is newer, we put that in about 3 years ago. The irrigation lines that run underneath the ground are all old. We have a lot of issues every single day, even during the winter with water line breaks. And the tough thing with that is when you have a water leak somewhere, rather than being able to go and shut off a valve to any one, set of lines or set of runs for irrigation, we have to turn off the entire system. In a new irrigation system, they would put valves, basically in every run of the irrigation. So if you had, a leak on hole number 1, you could go and turn off hole number 1 and everything else can continue to water. Right now, we don't have that luxury. When there's a leak, everything goes off. So a little bit of a pain, but it's a major need before we do any other renovations. So along with that would be our green complexes. The greens are old push-up greens. Basically, they took the dirt from around where the green sits, pushed it up into a mound, leveled it off, created some undulation to it, and then put grass on top of it. The negative about that is the sand and clay, as that, gets older, it starts to get tight, and then there's no water seepage. So being able to keep turf healthy, for roots to be able to grow, it has a hard time growing through that type of environment. So the idea of going into those green complexes, they would be scraped 16 to 18 inches down, and then they would go all back with sand. Sand, obviously permeable, would allow water to go through, allows for the roots to be able to grow deeper. Deeper roots would lead to healthier turf. So again, a big project. Fairways, same thing. We would basically kill all the fairways, regrass them. The fairway turf is actually just fine for what we're doing down here, and very easy to be able to keep healthy. But the sum of these projects is, the estimate that we've gotten from the USGA is about $6 million. So being able to do something like that, we would need additional help from the city. And we've talked with Gilbert and had a couple of meetings of how we could do that. We still think that's, 3 to 5 years away from being able to really, put the pen to paper and figure out exactly what we're doing. But there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And for the golf course to continue to grow and move forward, for the community, for itself, these renovations have to be done at some point. The golf course just can't survive where we're basically babying the golf course, and it could be a lot more than what it is even today. And we want to be able to do something that's going to help it go the next 50, 60 years into the future. So this wouldn't be just something for us, but it'd be for, several years of golfers, new golfers, to be able to use the golf course moving forward. A covered event space. So we've got a couple of different areas that we've located there at the golf course, and basically what we would be doing is looking to put a covered area over one of either the concrete pads that we have or pouring a new pad. There's some area over by the duck pond. There's an old shed that was torn down after Harvey that we would have use of, but basically trying to create an event space for after golf tournaments that they could hang out, do scoring, do food, and then also give a space for the Parks Department to be able to rent as well. So it's something that they would be able to flip-flop on both ends. And again, some areas that we've located, identified, and we'll pass that along to the landscape design and have them kind of give us some mock-ups for some of those as well, and give us a better idea of what we're thinking in our brains. Our cart barn and a couple of the other small buildings, these are some of the same things that we'll be having, that we'll have the landscape design company help us with, just to give us an idea of what this would look like. The cart barn is just rough. I mean, it's an outdoor space. It's in the park. We get animals in there. It's hard to keep dirt and keep the golf carts as clean as we would like for them to be. So I think with the remodel, it would make it a little bit easier for us or for the staff to move around with the golf carts, and would definitely give us a chance to look at trying to button that thing up a little bit to make it a little bit cleaner day by day. But again, one of those projects that we'll need some help with, and we'll get a better idea with concepts and drawings from landscape design. So that'll help a lot. So moving on to AJGA. So this is an event that we've hosted for the past couple years. We're in the third year of our current agreement with them. This year is on April 3rd through the 6th. So they'll actually show up kind of early that week. Their staff will show up on that Monday. We'll, as we've seen the past couple years, we'll have kids that will start and come play practice rounds the week before. So we'll start seeing some of them that are traveling the week before, playing practice rounds or coming out hitting golf balls and putting and doing all that good stuff. And we'll definitely see them by the weekend prior to the week of the event. So just kind of a quick schedule of events. On Thursday, they have an open qualifier, so any spots that weren't invitation filled, there will be an open qualifier for kids that are part of the AJGA to play and try to play their way into the tournament. It's usually about 16 spots that are in that open qualifier that are available. Everything else is taken up by invitations from AJGA to their players and their registrant list. That Thursday afternoon, we'll do practice rounds starting at 1 o'clock. Thursday is the only day that the golf course will be completely closed to outside customers. So AJGA has the tournament for that one full day. Friday and Saturday, we do tee times starting at 8 o'clock, and then we'll have tee times for the open to the public starting at 2 in the afternoon. That gives us enough time to get the kids kind of out and moving, so we don't have any of our members or general guest play that'll catch them. Sunday, the tournament field gets cut down to the top 60%, so they'll take the best 60 scores and 60% of scores, and they'll move them forward. The other ones are out of the event. Unfortunately, they won't qualify past that cut. Those tee times will run from 8 to 10, and then we'll start tee times that morning, probably around 11 o'clock or so. economic impact. So I did bring just a couple of numbers, and I can send this to you guys, or we can have Jessica send this out as well. But so the AJGA last year had 14 states were represented, 96 players in the field, 351 net visitors, and 4 countries that were represented. Economic impact, the visitor spending was $126,000. Total room nights were 456. Total impact, economic impact for last year was just over $320,000. Over the 2 years that we've hosted, the total economic impact is $671,000. So the event has been great, not only for the golf course, but for the city as well. The number of people that we're putting in hotels and how long the guests are staying here, it's something that we've really enjoyed, but we think it's a good fit for the city. It fits in our schedule well for the golf course. It fits well into the AJGA's tournament schedule. So part of that is the reason that we'll be asking council for an extension to host 26 through 28. So AJGA has been reaching out to us for the past year, asking us to do that. As we've let kind of Lisa get settled, I've brought that to her attention of wanting to move the event forward and wanting to continue that partnership with them. So we'll be looking to get that on council's agenda to approve that moving forward for 26 through 28. And we hope to see that come back again. They've been a great group. The kids are all great. They're well behaved. They take care of the golf course. It's one of the better events that we can have, hosting an amateur event like that. A lot of information. Any questions?
I just had a comment in the 7 years that I've been here, and I've seen it myself, and I've heard it in the community. You've done a great job with the golf course, and it has, I mean, it's been improving as I've been here, but even the people that I talked to that have lived here their whole life, they said they've never seen, Riverside in as good a shape as it's in now.
That's awesome.
So
Thank you.
Kudos.
Thanks. And it's not just me, it's my staff too. The guys are out on the golf course, they're the ones that do everything. I just try to make sure they have enough time to do that, and our budget is correct so they get the things that they need to do it, because they're the ones doing all the work.
Well, thank you.
Any other comments? I'm going to say congratulations, great job, Rolando. I mean, all the things that you and your team and have done in conjunction with the city, it's remarkable, like Brian said. And to grow your reserve, to $1 million, and then that's just, and to be self-supporting, for the most part. And I know the struggles you've had with golf course turf and flooding and weeds and all that. So it's just a great job. And I agree with the 2 improvements that the parking lot and the signage. I think that would make a huge difference. And it's affordable, like you said, within the boundary of what you can do right now with the money.
Sure.
I think that would really make the place look, just a little bit better. And the signage, I think we want to go in that direction. So thanks for putting that on the table. I'm excited about that. So
Thank you.
Real asset to the city.
That's what we were hoping.
Yep. All right, and we would be remiss if we just didn't say happy birthday to you.
thank you.
Thank you for spending it with us. All
Thanks.
Birthday.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
right.
All right.
And before he goes, because I know I'm going to have him sneak on out, he's been working hard. He's actually been working double duty, okay? So, and the reason why I say that, I wanted to let this board know, around the time that we experienced our vacancy with the community center, Rolando has actually stepped up in that area to help assist. And it has been a huge help. I know he's like, get someone hired. HR is going through a process right now, and it's helping us to identify more qualified applicants. So his help has really been instrumental. I call him the numbers guy. I don't know what everybody else does, but kudos to your team, Holly and Dennis and the rest of the team, because they've let me really share him. And so we really appreciate his efforts. I keep pushing him. Professional development is huge. I think the golf course is not where he's going to stop. So I'm putting that on the record. I know he has children. There's a lot going on, but I wanted to emphasize that we have great leadership reflected on this team. I did not ask him. He stepped up immediately. So hopefully by livestock show, I'm holding myself to the he said I had about a week, but he'll be able to focus back on what he so passionately cares about. But again, I just wanted to share that sentiment that he gets the vision. A lot of our leadership, they wear lots of hats, but I wanted to point that out. So thank you, Rolando. Go enjoy your family. We've got the rest of this.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you. All right. And your birthday, Jessica?
I knew about it.
Oh, you like Jessica's. I told Jessica she has to hold me to it. You know, I said this year in 2025, I'm not going to let another month go by without a card or something. We get so busy and we forget those things. So she said she's going to hold me to it. But we've been pretty good. But I didn't know this one. Darn it. Oh, well.
Tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow. All right, so we're going to continue with our presentation. I'm actually going to pass it to Steve Gallagher, who is going to begin the rest of our presentation for the evening. If I can get this going for you. All right, there you go. No problem.
All right, bye, Rolando. Happy birthday. All right, Madam Chair, Commission, good evening. Happy February 10th to y'all. So the first slide I got up on the board is to just talk about some park items on the maintenance team. This one's primarily covering here in the fiscal year where we're at with a couple of our projects coming up as it relates to equipment. So at the youth sports complex, we should, between February 20th and about March 5th, get the 5 new scoreboards that are going to be at the youth sports complex. They should be delivered to the installer by the 20th of the month, and then he'll bring them to the site within a week or so to start installing them. So fields 1 through 4 will be replaced, as well as field 7, and then any of those lights that are in those boards will help field 6 and 8 out, or any other board that needs an LED replacement from parts. And then that'll help out huge and tremendously to request at the youth sports complex, as well as we'll continue to look at the other boards for future budget years and when they need to be replaced. For the youth team, as well as the parks team, we have 3 new John Deere utility vehicles, which will help field maintenance and getting fields turned over after heavy rain events and just general park maintenance throughout Community Park. And so that helps replace units that were 10 or 15 years old, and so provide better service to the fields for the team. As well as for our Riverside Park team, there's 2 new pieces of equipment listed there. There's a stump grinder attachment as well as a new sweeper. Those will both attach to our Bobcat. And so on that Bobcat now, after floods, getting into areas that we need to sweep the mud off the road or other general maintenance with sweeping roads and parking lots from wind and debris, we can do that in Riverside Park. And the stump grinder will be really helpful for getting around parks like right now at Greenbelt, we got 6 to 8 stumps that need to be taken out, or other parks as trees fall down Riverside Park, the golf course. That's a nice piece of equipment to have for the team to get additional professional development. And it does eventually, in the long run, it'll save on cost of contracting out per stump as we, have thousands of trees in the park and need to work on them. So those are some equipment on the park side. For recreation, there's a couple slides here. We are starting our registration for our first season of 2025. Rec team is working really hard to get the registration out here the past 2 months for the kickball and the softball. And so we ask players, they can sign up through the victoriatx.gov site to get that information. But $300 per team will get you into kickball and into softball. And this is the first of 3 seasons that we have for spring, summer, and the fall season. We get anywhere between 50 to 60 teams. And so 4 nights a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at the adult sports complex. There'll be games between 7, 8, 9, and 10 p.m. over at the adult sports complex off of North Avenue. Toddlers on the Trail is back here in the winter months, so we got a couple more activities for that coming up. We're highlighting the next one this Wednesday, the 12th at 10 a.m. That'll be over at Children's Park. And then the next week on the 19th, we'll be at Hopkins Park. This month, we are celebrating Valentine-themed activities with the children. And our rec team always does a great job servicing those families and children. So very excited to see that here in the winter months, and the temperatures are warming up in the daytime for families as well. The community center, as we just mentioned, we are preparing for the livestock show. And so this is put on through the county and through the 4-H groups that come on and the JCs. And so they utilize the facility starting the 15th of the month. They have the cook-off and the parade going on the 15th. And so the cook-off, they'll be doing activities at the community center. And then the parade, though, is downtown at De Leon. They plan on having about 50 floats down there. So we ask residents to support that and enjoy the parade and festivities to kick off the show. And then you can see that there's some fairground activities that'll take place. Every year, there's an annual fair that takes place. This year, it's February 27th and March 3rd. There's definitely a lot of other activities, too many to list, but if they go to victorialivestockshow.com, then they'll be able to see all the activities and animal showings and where people can go to that event and check out the great purpose of our community center. On the sports tourism side, a couple updates for you as well. We are in our 4th year of the Texas Amateur Athletic Federation Winter Games. This has been a wonderful year for us to start with. And so just to talk about the first weekend that we had on January 18th and 19th, we had 3 different sports that came in. And out of those sports, we had 95 surveys, 147 room nights, and they listed out of those 95 surveys how much of those were used restaurants, retail, other services. Our Convention Bureau is still wrapping up the full economic impact from that weekend. So out of that reported spending around $20,000, and then the hotels around $12,000, but they're gonna do some aggregate based on those that didn't answer some of the surveys and the athletes. So we're definitely expecting much higher numbers, around 100,000 or so, 75,000 to the first weekend, based on the full report for the athletes. And I got those numbers on my next slide that break that down. There was 1,200 athletes that came for disc golf, wheelchair basketball, as well as swimming. The disc golf, we had 94 competitors that came in. That was a record number for the disc golf tournament. And it's a really nice kickoff swing tournament as they're preparing the Texas disc golf season, as well as getting ready for the Victoria Open on February 22nd. And so they like to use that January tournament to get a feel for the courses here in Victoria. The wheelchair basketball, we had teams that came in from Corpus Christi, San Antonio, the Houston area, as well as the Austin area. And so that was really cool to see that. The San Antonio Parasports team won that. And we had out of that about 40 athletes that played, and then several fans and stuff. And they stayed 2 nights from, somebody came in Friday and Saturday, somebody came in Saturday morning and then stayed that night there. So they did a really good job filling out the surveys and providing data. And then swimming for us this year, we had a record number of swimmers. We had categories in youth, adult as well. So we had, it was 9 and up to 18 for girls as well as boys. And then the adults was 18 and up. And then we also had 9 and under category. And so those 2 days events brought in 1,000 swimmers. And that was, out of all the TAF swimming, that we brought in the most for this particular game. So that was a great number to see how the community supported the swimming there at the Natatorium and Aquatic Center. The staff did great. We really appreciate Miss Cynthia over there helping with her team to put it on, as well as the TAF support team that came down. There was over 40 to 50 TAF professionals that came down to help swimming. And one of the things to keep in mind with that is those people are taking their individual time out of their director or assistant director or recreation roles or aquatic roles to take the weekend off just to come to our town to support swimming. We could not do that without their help. So we're very grateful for all of those volunteers, as well as we had some other community members that volunteered. It took about 80 or so people that helped put that competition on to run that event. And they were going 8 in the morning till 8 at night, 7 at night each day. And then on Sunday was 8 to about noon on Sunday. So a lot of long, hard days to do that, but we appreciate all the team members that did that. Coming up this weekend, right away, we have 4 sports listed. Esports is a new one for us. We're very excited about that, to partner with the University of Houston and their esports dome. If you haven't been over there, they will have an opening at 8 in the morning. It's in the University South building. And they have 2 different rooms. The first room is kind of like a half circle room where they could put up to 8 projected screens onto the surface. So I'm not familiar with Super Smash Brothers, but I know that if you play Nintendo or Wii or things like that, it's a pretty popular event. And so to go and compete and use your characters and do what you do to do some, I guess Nintendo martial arts is the best way to put it. But it's a lot of fun, because then even for college and for technology and for that science of building those games and getting into gaming, it's really important to show how the university can shine in that and lead people. It's 13 and up can play, And so you can get over to the university with the student body over there, and it helps them too with professional development to put this tournament on. And they also have a secondary room too where they can put another 8 screens up, and then they got stadium seat bleachers seating. And so if you haven't been over there, I definitely recommend that this weekend. At 8 in the morning, they start doing warm-ups, and then at 10 a.m. is when they actually start the competition. Depending on the amount of players that can end maybe mid-afternoon to early evening, the more players they have, the more they'll end early evening for that. Softball is a really big event over at our youth sports complex this weekend. There was 50 to 60 teams that were registered. And so they'll be using the 11 fields over there on Saturday and 12 fields on Sunday. There's also a UHV doubleheader game on Saturday. So that park is going to be packed with 1,500 to 1,800 people throughout the day, starting at 8 in the morning until 9 at night on Saturday as well as Sunday. Flag football, if you haven't had a chance to see that. Flag football, this will be the 3rd one out of the 4th year. We did skip a year for that, but that's really exciting to see 250 players come in for that. But to kind of give you a perspective, they get to play multiple ways. So you could play on an 8-on-8 team, they can play on a 5-on-5 team, but then they can also play on a 5-on-5 co-ed team. And so depending on their skill on those, you can actually have a player play at so many different tournaments throughout the weekend. And so you'll see them on that Saturday morning starting out on, we're putting 5 8x8 fields out on the soccer fields on Red River. And then we also got it to where it's converted to 5-on-5 fields later in the day. And so you'll see them playing from 8 in the morning till about 8 at night. And just depending on which time you get there, you may see them playing one of those categories. Then on Sunday, they'll be playing at 8 in the morning till about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, just 8-on-8. They'll finish with the 5-on-5 play on that Saturday.
Did I hear you say there's still signups for our board commissioners?
We can get a team. We
Okay.
got a co-ed team right here.
I thought I heard you say
We could do a
that.
5-on-5
I thought
co-ed.
Brian.
We were just
Yeah.
thinking about how nice it would be to have food trucks
Right.
up there to like feed all of these people. If
Yes.
this, I mean,
Yes.
think
yes.
about
So the reason I say that within the 3 different categories is because even though you get those 250 players, it does cumulative to about 470 players by the time that you can count all the cross activities that they do. So it's not necessarily double counting, it's just how the tournament is laid out from 8-on-8, 5-on-5, and then 5-on-5 co-ed. So it's going to be really cool, and they'll stay, again, a lot of hotel nights for that. The golf tournament, Rolando, I think, has about 20 teams, and that's a Saturday-only tournament, and you're more than welcome during the day to see that event going on. It's a 4-person scramble. It's co-ed, but again, each of these representatives to say that, one, you guys should have received a pin up here on your diocese. And so that pin is the 100th anniversary pin, logo and anniversary for TAF. And so this is our 4th year, 5th year of hosting this event. So we are fortunate to host in an anniversary season. So very excited about that. So thank you as well for your support. When we first started this adventure in 2021 to get in front of council and bring in sports tourism, you guys were also a part of that for Park Commission. So thank you very much for that. And then, let's see here, for TAF, I think I'm wrapped up on that. We'll have a
I did
follow-up.
want to. I did want to add one point when you mentioned about the food trucks. We have our debriefing from after we finish these first 2 weekends. Since this is like my first round going through it, we absolutely love those suggestions. Like, we wanted to talk through some enhancements, just even at the wheelchair basketball games, just having music and live commentary. Those are things that we're trying to explore. And so certainly the food piece is a big one. So we're writing that down. Thank you for bringing that attention. That's important.
It is important.
That is
People like
a nice
food.
add-on.
They like
food
food,
trucks.
yes.
Yes.
Going somewhere, I wanna know
Yes.
where
So
the
we'll,
food-
Thank you.
we'll head March, wrap up the second weekend and
Yes.
give you the data and stats on that there. For that, but definitely looking forward with the Convention Bureau, any consideration for future years after 26 if we wanted to continue this event as well. A couple other volunteer opportunities to see. We just wanted to list out coming up on the south side at Gross Neighborhood, the the Childhood Center at 1107 South Depot. On Saturday, February 22nd from 9 to 11, the Keep Victoria Beautiful will be doing their quarterly cleanup to start the year for 25. And so we wanted to promote that out for an opportunity for the commission to be out on that Saturday. And then the next point of note is at the end of the month, from February 24th to February 28th, 4 of our park team members will be headed out to Allen, Texas, to take part in our Texas Recreation and Park Society State Conference. So normally they take about 1,100 people to this conference, and they actually sold out to where they had to expand it even higher than that, and they found ways to get it in. So we're gonna meet with a lot of our peers all up and down the board from any level in recreation all the way up to director, and be able to get new ideas, fresh concepts, new ideas in parks and recreation. We're gonna meet with over 50 plus vendors, if not more, to talk about playgrounds or just aesthetics or other things, landscape architecture. So they fill this conference up. A lot of local state reps in the state of Texas for us to get engaged with, so we can work with our partners there. So we're just very energized to hit to this conference for sure. So this one's a real treat for us, and we do have opportunity to continue to find ways to bring new members to get involved, as well as they do local conferences. We were in one in January last month, and so just a lot of energy that we have about going to these conferences.
And I
Any
do want to
comments?
look into this. I'm not sure what has been past practice, but I believe a lot of agencies typically invite their board commissioners to these types of conferences. They actually attend. I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm just putting that out there that that's something I'm going to explore, because I do think that we get to absorb a lot of best practices, but it is very nice to see it from your perspective, because I do run into a lot of those. So I don't know if it's a yay or nay, but I certainly want to look into that, because we need to kind of expand our horizon in terms of our reach. Agencies are not just about assistant director, director. They are very much about our partners in the boards and commissions and things of that sort. So I'll bring back some information on that to see if that's even a possibility.
Is this a once-a-year event? Did I miss that? Or-
Yes, ma'am. So
Yes.
this is
state
always
conference is
at the
once a
end of
year.
February, the last week of February, first weekend in March, depending on how the calendar is. And then as well as the National Recreation and Park Association, they have theirs either September, October timeframe. And so if you can look at those calendars and just kind of have it pre-planned out, then if there was anything logistically that we needed to talk about or get permissions for or work to.
Yeah,
I know, some cities or park commissions, the way they're funded, they're allowed to fund it. Some aren't, that's just self-funded, private party. But it's definitely well worth it. I mean, even when I was in Atlanta last October, I ran into so many park commissioners and councils that were part of their body or agency of that. And it was just, to be able to talk to them and just have that conversation. And as well as there's even individual meetings that where there's presenters from those commissions or from those councils or boards that would say, if you're an up and coming superintendent or AD or director, how do you work with us, and stuff. And so they have that dialogue at these conferences and stuff. And it's good to meet our peers in other communities and city managers or managers that go to these conferences and educational pieces. Miss Lisa, I got locked out.
Oh. You need my password.
Yeah. Just a couple more slides. There we go. Awesome. All right, so the last slide actually before questions then is going to be on the capital improvements. So the biggest one that everybody's waiting for is at the Lee Tracy Park, the restroom. And so I have great news. There is a truck sitting in the parking lot with the restroom on it at the Lee Tracy. So I'm very excited about that news. Myself and our parks supervisor were out there today watching them start to prepare the pad and install some plumbing and stuff. So later this week, you'll see a big crane there starting to set that bathroom in place. And our contractor will continue to set other plumbing, sanitary, and electrical in throughout the weeks here to come. But definitely, as we get ready for splash pad season, the 8th through the 15th of March is when a time would be expected that you'll see announcements and stuff. So we don't have the official date yet when we would cut any ribbon or do anything to get that restroom going, but it is here in the parking lot, so I'm very excited about that. So it's a sight to see if you do get time throughout the week to stop by and see them, especially, when you're talking about using a crane and moving a building off a truck. It's always fun. The Ted B. Reed project, we had a council here recently with our grant team Ms. Katie Conley helped us out, as well as our engineer department through the Parks Department to apply for a grant at Ted B. Reed Park. We're looking to take that park and improve the trail over there to a 10-foot multi-use sidewalk, as well as other sidewalk improvements to the shelters, as well as in front of the walkway as you connect the firehouse along the street, along Salem, all the way to the Town Country Road there. There's no sidewalk, and so we're gonna apply for this grant, which has been submitted, and so it's gonna take several months for that to get actually approved, but we just wanted to put that on the radar. And so that's a great grant through the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, where it's a $360,000 project. The city would only be on the hook for $60,000, and then the grant would pay the other $300,000. And so that'll help us continue to go a long way for other projects and other sidewalk foot traffic destinations that are needed in the city.
I have a question about the Ted B.
Yes.
Reed Park. Is the racquetball courts that are over there,
Yes.
are those used by anyone that plays racquetball? Is there a better way that we could use that space? I go over there a few times. I haven't seen anyone over there, and it just seems like could be better utilized.
Sure. Yes, great question for sure. Ms. Glenda, we have had discussions about just tearing it down and leaving the slab there. There are surprisingly a handful of people that if I talk to at the park or other places throughout my time in 3 years will say, oh, we actually have played handball or played something there. And then we have the other side of it with maintenance. Every week we're painting something on the wall because something's on the wall that's not supposed to be there, right? And so eventually that is on a list of deferred maintenance to handle it in some manner and improve it and make the park improved in some fashion. But nothing's
Could
on
be
the
a great
schedule.
pickleball court.
Sure. We'd have to measure it too and see what the size of that is as well. You're exactly right. I mean, that's one of our things that we're charged to do in our day-to-day jobs, as well as we ask our park team, is that as they go around is to evaluate structures, evaluate usage of facilities, and then help us guide us into our mission as we ask for capital improvements and how we can improve parks. So for sure, for that. So did that help answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, if you're looking into it, I just don't know how much it's being used.
Yeah.
And like you said,
Not like
it's
it should
causing
be,
maintenance,
right,
and if
yeah.
no one's using it, maybe tear it down and then make a plan B.
Correct. So if we get that on the schedule, we'll certainly let the folks know that, what that would be.
Thank you.
The last point I think that I had, because the slides blanked
You can-
out, but
You can, maybe.
no, it likes,
It
it
did.
all of a sudden didn't like me at all.
I'm sorry.
It was going so well for like an hour.
That's why.
It's all right.
It's an hour. It's like,
Oh,
it's long
gosh.
enough.
Typing too fast.
Rolando didn't blank out once.
You gotta kind of move it.
Yeah,
There you go.
there we go. Oh,
Oh, it really closed all the way out. There we go.
All right, if I'm fidgeting because I'm moving the mouse so it doesn't go to sleep. The Riverside Park Children's Splash Pad and the playground itself. And so earlier this August, we had received qualification from 11 different businesses that do park amenity upgrade, landscape architecture, sports fields and stuff. So we're working to finish up, hopefully bring it to where there's a contract here in March to council. The gentleman that we met with from the company out of Houston area is going to be putting together his numbers for putting together that design and concept and then engineering for the first half of that stage so that then we can bring the final phase. We're looking at about a $2 million project where about $550,000 of that is actually provided from the Marcia Strengthen Foundation for the splash pad over where the splash pad will be at the Children's Park area. And so once we have more details on that, then we'll start being able to provide those presentations. But those conversations are more in progress. We've had some meetings and gone through some key details and scope of what we want to hit out of that project. And so that vendor will provide us numbers that will start the engineering phase of that and design. And then we'll be able to get into that project. Depending on the financial responsibilities that we could do, we'd either do the splash pad and playground both in the fiscal year 26, in the middle to late part of 26, or we would split the project for CIP funding into the splash pad first, and then the playground second in the early part of 27 and book in the fiscal year. So we're going to look at that with the CMO's office and finance team.
So Stephen, did I hear you correctly? So right now the consultant is in conceptual design phase?
That's the contract that'll come up. Yes, ma'am.
So
So,
you had RFQ, you had RFP, and you selected a consultant.
yes.
And so now, is he doing concept phase or not?
Once we get it approved from council to
okay.
start that. So he's providing us a number right now on what it would take, and so.
Oh, he's giving you
it's-
his fee for
right,
design
right,
fee.
the design
Oh,
fee,
okay.
right,
You said
so-
engineering fees, and I was like, okay, okay.
Right, but that'll be included in that design fee, engineer fee. It's
Correct,
It's kind of
right.
2-in-1 where you get like that 30% engineer fee upfront within that. So, and then we'll go back at the actual time of construction to get the full engineer fees within the
Right, so
construction.
I guess what I'm thinking out loud is that, so you'll be able to bring to us the concept design. The next thing that we're gonna see is a conceptual layout at some point.
Right.
In 3 months or whatever the timeframe is, right?
Yes,
Right.
that's
Okay.
correct.
Correct.
That is the goal, and I did want to notate that the splash pad does have naming rights that are secured by the Marshall Shanklin Foundation, so it will be officially that name.
All right, great. I'm looking forward to what the consultant comes up with.
Absolutely.
We can't wait.
And then the last project in the queue, we have till September 30th to work on this, and it's through the Community Block Development Grant. We were awarded a $95,000 grant, and what that $95,000 grant will help us do is at Brownson Park, we'll be able to put in about 1,000 linear feet of sidewalk, have an area where there could be an ADA parking space over there, and then we'll put in 2 solar lights at Brownson Park. And then at Meadow Lane as well as Pine Street, we'll be able to have solar lights at those. There, we'll also evaluate any sidewalk improvement at Meadow Lane. Over there within the sidewalks, we'll see if there's any funding within that, or if Brownson, it's a pretty long sidewalk at Brownson. So we'll see how the funding goes. We'll certainly ask, because Meadow Lane does need a little sidewalk improvement to get from the sidewalk that's already there back to either the basketball court or the playgrounds over there. And then, so we'll look at getting a couple lights at Brownson, a couple lights at Meadow Lane, and then there's 3 lights that were put in prior at Pine Street, but we'll put in a couple more there just to continue to enhance park lighting with Pine Street as part of this grant as well overall.
Okay, so can you take a look into some solar lighting that I saw at a park in Bryan, Texas? And it's solar lighting, basically it's pop and play. I mean, there's solar poles with lights. But what it does is when there's no activity in the park, they dim down to save energy. But when someone is in the vicinity of the light, then they come on. And they're
Yes.
really cool in the fact that they provide lighting when you need lighting, but also for neighbors or for police. When someone is in the area, the light goes brighter, and you can tell automatically just by viewing or what stage, how bright the light is if there's an activity going on. They're really cool lights, and I don't think they cost a whole lot more than whatever else, but that the new technology is something to look at. And I have no idea what they're called, but
Right, have you seen the ones at the dog park?
I have not at
Okay.
night.
Those
no.
are the ones that do that.
Good.
And so probably the biggest thing I've seen that we'll continue to research is just that length of time that they run within that dimming cycle.
Right.
I know the ones at the dog park are a little bit shorter timing than we want, but it's something that, you're right, it is brand new technology. So as they provide that 100% dimming to like 25% dimming, and then whenever that goes to a full 100% again, or whatever the capacity is, like
Really cool,
they're
though.
improving that technology for sure. So, and those are types of vendors that we'll see at this conference as well too. There's usually 2 or 3 light vendors that'll sell their next product to us. So we'll definitely keep our eyes out and Alan about that as well, be on our radar.
Great.
So thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
All right, this is another one of our leaders that's working very hard as well. So I appreciate Steve's help. It's been exactly 10 months for me, and I know.
Months
I feel like, when's our meeting? And we should have like cake or something.
May 1st, May 1st.
May 1st. But with that being said, no, I'm really excited. I mean, you get to sit there and you get to hear so much about what we're working hard to do. ecstatic over here. There's so much happening. We hear your feedback. And so we're really looking forward to, we call it tying the bow on everything, you know, from start to finish. And so we've just done a lot of work, and I'm proud of the team. And one plug before I pass it back to the chair. So if you don't know, the city council meetings have now been incorporating annual reports. And annual reports from every single city department that's here with the city of Victoria. And it has been enlightening. Communications has shared their piece, all from what they do all day, what do they do, with what staff they have. It's just amazing how comprehensive this is. And so if you listen to probably the last 4 or 5 meetings, we've had just beautiful reports from all of my counterparts. And so ours is the very, very last one on March the 18th. And so we're putting together this report so we can share with the public. But we welcome you all to really see, if you want the inner workings of everything that's happening, not just with us, but other departments, please take a listen. You will be amazed. It does talk about the challenges, opportunities, as well as all the positive things that have come out of each and every one of our departments. And so we get a chance to brag even more. And so I'm glad to share that with you. And that's all that I had to report, but thank you for your time. I know it's a lot of information. Again, if there's anything you need from us, any additional information, we're notating that and we'll follow up with the board as necessary.
Great.
I have a question. I would like to get more educated about the new improvements for the community center.
Yes.
Because we're getting some questions from the public, and we're going to be voting on that, and I think it's a great idea, but I feel like I need to get better educated on it. I went to one meeting, so who would I talk to? Are we going to have some education on that for the public, or what?
Sure, yes, that is going to be an ongoing subject in terms of new advancements that are happening within our city. So just recently, we had a quick update from our city manager as it relates to the community center. I can't pinpoint what meeting that was, but that was here probably within the last month. And so, yes, we'll be happy to provide that information to you as well. And we can share what we have, and I'll get with Jessica so we can provide that to the board as well. Right now, things are kind of in the funding stage. The conversation is just figuring out, and that was the last meeting with our city manager, was determining which taxing entity that would come from. So, yes, we'll be happy to share more. Steve, did you have anything to add to that? And
No,
make
I
sure I'm
think
not missing
if you go back about 3 councils, you could show that how the funding was going to be determined. And then if you go back to the last council, was when council officially voted to put that venue tax onto the May election cycle. And you can see over the last 3 councils, I think you'll find 90% of your answers that through the council is where that's being presented.
Okay.
And they'll be able to help kind of walk you through what Lisa just said about where the funding could potentially come from and why it's important to have a venue tax. And then when you watch that, you might be able to then filter out whatever questions you have back with Lisa about that, so that we can get that either through a presentation here or just emailed out answers.
Okay.
Jesus had a meeting this afternoon, and he was going to be here. And so we would be able to answer that probably in more detail. And I assume he'll probably be at the next one. So that'll be helpful too, whichever comes first. Thank you for your question.
On a related subject.
Yes, sir.
I heard a number of complaints over the weekend about apparently the idea of a wedding venue, or making the community center a better wedding venue, did not go over well with people who would normally be voting for it, and they want to hear more about rodeos and stock show type things. So in the marketing, I would suggest downplaying weddings, upplaying rodeos and events like that.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's a big, rodeo's the number one thing I went to the meeting about. But we're keeping the dome as far as I understand, so
Yes.
it's still going to be available. Yeah.
Dome, arena, and all, yes.
Any other comments or questions? I guess are we moving now into future agenda items?
I have a future agenda item.
Go for it.
All right. When when Mike was still here, we talked about potential ways of utilizing the disabled softball field more. It was suggested by some of the softball players that it would be a good spot if we put some basketball goals in, to make it an outdoor basketball arena because it's got a beautiful surface. And as a whole, the space is not utilized a lot. I mean, when it is utilized, it's important.
Yes.
But being able to utilize it more for outdoor wheelchair basketball might be a possibility. It's got a beautiful surface. It's got a good, nice bleachers, nice snack bar, restrooms, et cetera. So using it more would be good. I just said I don't want it used too early in the morning because that'll wake me up because I live right next to it.
Well, certainly. I'm going to pass this to Stephen. We had a great meeting just recently with the YMCA, and so I'll let him highlight kind of our conversation. So perfect timing. So we are on it.
It's a great question, and we'll continue to provide details on this. But one of the things to bring Ms. Lisa up to speed is with the Challenge Stream Complex, there is a contract in place from that association through 29. And then as well as the YMCA also has like an inner agreement with them to use it. And so we just met this last week with Bud Oliver from the YMCA and Anthony Young, who's a board member for the Challenge Stream Complex. And we'll continue to nurture those details and find the best uses of the site, as well as how it connects to the front of the park there with the new splash pad and the areas over there with the inclusive playground. So it's definitely on our radar, and as we get more information, we'll continue to bring it to the board.
So is the consultant that's looking at the child's playground and new splash pad, is that part of their contract to look at that area?
No, it doesn't get that far over, but just in general, just as we're mentioning, if we're having that as a use, and if you go and look at it right now, there's no sidewalks going there or just in general with any parking updates. So it would be continued conversation and future development plans over there. But just as far as the use between the groups, we do have a calendar that you'll start to see activities there throughout the evenings. I believe it's Tuesdays and Thursdays and then on Saturdays. But the YMCA also would continue to bring in that partnership, as well as just we're working in our meetings to try to figure out the user groups like at Vine School and other schools that really have all groups of inclusive. I don't want to just limit it to inaccessible, but other cognitive abilities as well. That how do we find those folks that have teams or travel teams? I know that there's groups in the Houston area that love to travel between Corpus and San Antonio often. We got the Bad News Terrace tournament every year, the softball tournament every July. So there's definitely stuff there, Mr. Fisk, like you mentioned. We can find ways to continue to use it, and that's what our goals are to do personally too.
Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Okay, so we brought that up as a future agenda item, so maybe you just circle back to us in a few months.
Yeah, if we can get a couple months on that one, that'd be great.
That'd be great, because we understand it's a protected space with a protected use, but again, like the question is, how can we continue to utilize it and perhaps get better utilization out of it with partners, both city and community-wide? Okay.
Correct.
All right, future agenda items, I see that the city staff has put on their restroom best policies, so you're bringing that back to us?
We are. We wanted to wait until after the conference because we're sure to meet a lot of vendors that'll help us tell
Great.
that story.
That's great, and I know you guys got a big TAF weekend coming up, so
Yes.
you'll get some real life.
Valentine's weekend.
Yes, so you got to practice. All right, any other future agenda items for the next few months? Anybody?
Pleasure.
I have one.
Yes.
A year or so ago, we had the police chief come and give us an update on safety in the parks.
Okay.
And he came to us with basically incident calls and patrol calls and all sorts of numbers with regards to how safe are our parks. It was a very good presentation. I think it's been about a year. it would be nice at some point this year
Okay.
to have another report. I think that the citizens would appreciate that, and I think it's interesting for all of us.
No problem.
Okay. And the other question I have at some point is how, again, coming back to the city's agreement with the Y with regards to swimming hours in the
Yes.
summer. I know that in years past, we've had complaints from citizens who didn't feel like that the times allotted to city citizens without a membership were quite fair or appropriate in the cost of all that. So, Bud Oliver did come and speak to us probably a year or 2 years ago now.
Yes.
So just a quick snippet on where we are with regards to what are the hours for, I guess, citizens this summer, this season?
Sure.
And recognizing that, what can we just want to know what it is to make sure that all citizens have access to swimming and pools and all of that.
Absolutely.
And then splash pad and Ted, that's very, very helpful, of course, but I think that'd be good to revisit that as well. So,
Thank you for that's helpful.
all right, anybody else?
Make a
All right.
motion, we adjourn.
Got a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Mike, you spoke right up.